So today's topic is going to be something that you don't typically hear in a management meeting or in the break room. It's a little bit of a taboo word for corporate companies, and it's a really big buzzword for employees, and that is going to be ergonomics. And what ergonomics is it's just a really fancy word for saying how do we design the workplace to fit our employees rather than our last thinking in the last century or so is how do we condition our employees to fit into our workplace. And it goes into a couple of different things. There's musculoskeletal injuries, or MSDs, we'll get into that, fatigue, and removing stressors and barriers for our employees. OSHA does have a very opinionated view on ergonomics, and because they're the gold standard of safety in our country, we should not take them lightly. Ergonomics is of the utmost importance to OSHA, and even though most of these are suggestions right now, or guidelines, and they're not requirements, 9 times out of 10 when OSHA has a guideline, they end up turning into a requirement down the road. And OSHA does emphasize that MSDs are extremely common. Some ones that you typically hear are carpal tunnel syndrome, rotator cuff injuries, muscle strains, and back injuries. And those are very common in the workplace, and they account for a lot of workers' compensation claims. Another thing is OSHA suggests that you train your employees to see the risks and make the changes and hold each other accountable. Breaking bad posture habits and personal ergonomics is really hard, but with proper training it is doable, and it's actually very cost effective for your company. And then most corporate companies are now starting to implement what they call an ergonomics policy, which is basically an agreement between the employer and the employee saying this is how we're going to take care of you, this is our plan to take care of your body, and anything else that you need is on you. This picture, if you can see it, is just basically a list of all workers' rights. The one that I think stands out the most, especially because I think in about 12 to 18 months we're going to start seeing these guidelines become requirements through OSHA, is that employees can file a complaint asking OSHA to inspect their workplace. And even though these are guidelines right now, if you are reported, you're kind of put on OSHA's radar, and as soon as these become requirements, they probably will come into your place of work. Next are the benefits of ergonomics, and when you hear ergonomics and you think stand-up desks and chairs, you think, oh my gosh, how am I going to financially afford this? However, it is proven that ergonomics can actually reduce costs for your company, because when you have less injury, you have less workers' comp claims, and that right there will save you a ton of money. On average, when you have an MSD related to ergonomics, you take about 11 to 13 days off to recover from that, versus a basic injury that is not based on ergonomics, you take about 8 to 10 days off. And those missing 3 or 4 days off of work can account for about 38% of productivity loss. So that's just for one employee. If you have multiple employees that are out because of injury related to an ergonomics claim, you could be seeing a lot of productivity loss for your company. And OSHA has a really cool tool to calculate how you can make up the difference in your workers' comp claim and how much work you're going to need to offset that difference. We're not going to go too much into it, but there is a link on your PowerPoint if you wanted to check that out. And last but not least, this graph just basically says that 33% of all workers' comp claims that are related to ergonomics or MSDs come from ergonomics, and 67%, including construction and catastrophic injuries, are the other 2/3 of that. So 1/3 of all injuries are coming from lack of ergonomics, which is very important to pay attention to. Next, ergonomics improves productivity and quality. If your workspace is of a great quality, your work will be of a great quality. You'll be comfortable and able to focus. Your employees won't be as tired, and that's just not physically tired, that is mentally tired as well, because when your body hurts, it's mentally taxing. And if your employee is in a decision-making role, it will allow them to make clear decisions and not decisions based off of an emotional response. And last but not least, ergonomics improve your employee engagement. It reduces turnover. It's not that hard if you don't have employees that are being hurt by their workspace. They're not quitting their jobs and finding something that's a little bit more accommodating. And when your employees feel taken care of, they take care of you. Fairly easy to implement ergonomics in the office. You can start with a free or low-cost method, which is just teaching good posture and good ergonomics. There are a lot of YouTube videos that show good ergonomics in the office, how to properly sit at a computer, make sure your lumbar spine is square, you're sitting at your computer correctly, and your chair is at the correct height. Moving on from that, talking about chairs is a good way to get started. Unfortunately, the human body is not a one-size-fits-all thing. We all know that. We all fit in different size bathing suits. So the same goes for the chair and the desk at work. So unfortunately, also a lot of companies tend to like the uniformity. They like to have the same color chairs, the same desks and everything. But you can combat that. Just pick a chair that is adjustable every which way, shape, and form so you can fit most employees and their body types. And next is to give your employees the ability to stand or move around. I'm a huge advocate for stand-up desks if you can afford them, because it allows your employee to stand up, move, get the blood flowing, but they're still working, so you're not cutting out productivity. But if that's not something in the budget this year, you can definitely just take a hot lap around the building about every hour or so. And last but not least is good lighting. Good lighting is so important because computers give off what is called a blue light, which can lead to degeneration of the eyes, and fluorescent lighting can definitely also degenerate the eyes quicker. So they make blue light lenses for the desktop, blue light glasses, and changing fluorescent is just the way to go. And last but not least, my final point is ergonomics is good business. When your employees feel taken care of, they take care of you. And if you get anything out of this speech, I want you to take this away from the speech. Happy employees have stronger work ethics, they are more motivated, they're more dependable, and they boost morale in the office. And you just gotta do your part. If your employees aren't the most important to you, do it for your business sake. It's good business. People love it. And there's actually a lot of very successful companies that have recently won awards for their ergonomics. Prudential Insurance is the main one. They've actually been focusing on ergonomics since the 90s. And then most recently is the Seattle City Light, which is the Seattle electric company. Their office has won an ergonomics award as well. So if you take anything out of this, just know that ergonomics is good business, it's cost effective, and it brings in a lot of productivity for your company. Thank you and have a great day.